facial nerve differential diagnosis, okay? This, like I said previously, this is going to be the only motor nerve that isn't taken care of bilaterally. Okay, it's a different presentation if you have an upper motor neuron lesion versus a lower motor neuron lesion. Does anyone know what the lower motor neuron lesion is called for the facial nerve paralysis? Something called Bell's palsy. Okay. Has anybody ever seen a person with Bell's palsy before? Yeah. And the patient presentation with a person with Bell's palsy is just a little bit different than that of having had a stroke. Okay, and that's what this is all about. So it's called differential diagnosis, right? You should be able to tell somebody by just looking at their face whether or not they should be worried about having had a stroke or they have Bell's palsy. Okay, and Bell's palsy is something that PTs treat, by the way. Okay, what you see up here is you see my standard frontal section. There are 3 of them. Okay, 3 different ones, and just to make it very clear, I'll put my dots. Okay, these are 3 different presentations. This is going to be my frontal section through the cortical region and through the brain stem. Okay, there's my midbrain and my pons, right? And then these are 3 different representations, and what we're going to draw down here is just patient presentation, and this is going to be a smiley face, eventually. Okay, so everybody got it? So we're going to start over here on the left side, and on the left side, we're going to draw what's considered normal. Okay, this is going to be a normal presentation. So all the facial nerve is working. And what's the motor function for the facial nerve again? Muscles of facial expression. Okay, muscles of facial expression. Cranial nerve number 7, the facial nerve. All right. So starting over here, I'm going to go ahead and put my midline in for both my frontal section for normal, and I'm going to put a midline in for my face also, because we're going to see some differences. Okay. Looking at what happens with normal. When I talked about the facial nucleus, which is going to be the motor nucleus for cranial nerve number 7, I only drew it as one circle. Okay. In reality, there's 2 different circles here for the motor nucleus, for facial nucleus. There's going to be I'm drawing it in red. This is the upper face division. I'll explain what that means in a minute. So the nucleus is divided into 2 parts. There's an upper face division. Okay, and then closely attached to that, I'm going to draw this one in blue. It doesn't really matter which color, as long as there are 2 different colors that you can see. There's something, this is also the facial nucleus, but it has what's known as a lower face division. Drawing it here in blue. And these are just different divisions of that facial nucleus that we talked about. That does the motor function for cranial nerve number 7. Okay, upper face division and a lower face division. Everybody got it? So really, this is the facial nucleus divided into 2 parts. Upper face is red and lower face. And why it's upper face? So from the upper face division, the neuronal cell body sends out axons that are responsible for innervating the upper part of the face. So this would be the upper part of the face. Okay, so all I'm drawing here are axons coming out of neurons from the upper face division. And there's also the lower face division, sends out axons that innervate the lower part of the face. See what I'm doing? So the important thing to remember here is that upper face division for the facial nucleus. There's an upper motor neuron present bilaterally, just like all the other cranial nerve nuclei that we just talked about, all the motor nuclei. That this upper motor neuron sends out an axon that synapses to the upper face division ipsilaterally. Okay, and just like we saw a minute ago, the contralateral upper motor neuron sends out an axon that travels down and then decussates to synapse with the upper face division contralaterally. Okay, and that looks like the trigeminal motor that we just looked at. Okay, so the upper face division happens bilaterally, but the lower face division is only contralateral. So for the lower face division, there's an upper motor neuron present only contralaterally, and that upper motor neuron sends out axons that decussate at the level of the nucleus and synapse. Okay, and this would be normal. Okay, no deficits, no problems, nothing yet. And so what I'd like to do is just draw a normal smiley face. Most important thing here is going to be the eyes. Okay. Okay, this is eyes and the eyebrows are all part of the upper face division. Okay, so it's the upper part of the face. Consider the eyes and the eyebrows. And then the lower part of the face is going to be the smile. So this guy's normal, so he's very happy. There's a smile. He has a nice symmetrical smile. Here what you're looking for is symmetry. Questions? Upper face division, upper motor neuron present bilaterally, synapses ipsilaterally and contralaterally. Do you have a funky smile or something? Okay, I can't draw. Okay. Okay, so this is normal, right? Everything's hooked up. So the upper face division is redundant. The lower face division is only present contralaterally. Moving over. Now let's look at the presentation for a patient post-stroke. Okay, if you remember stroke or CVA, this is going to be an example of an upper motor neuron problem. Okay, so same situation. I'm just going to go ahead and draw my midline in so we can see things crossing over. Okay, so same as before, I have my upper face division. Here's my facial nucleus for the upper face division. And then here's my facial nucleus for the lower face division. Same as previous. And we know that the upper face division sends out axons that are responsible for innervating the upper portion of the face. And the lower face division sends out axons that are responsible for innervating the lower portion of the face. Upper face division has upper motor neurons that are present bilaterally. Those upper motor neurons send out axons that synapse ipsilaterally and then contralaterally with the upper face division. Okay. And then the lower face division has upper motor neurons that are only present contralaterally. Those neurons send out axons that come down to the level of the nucleus and decussate. Okay, same thing we just drew. All right, now, person has had a stroke, and that's an upper motor neuron problem. And we're going to say that the stroke happened right here and caused the problem. This is going to be an upper motor neuron presentation of having had a stroke. What we can do is on this side isn't going to be affected. Okay, so I'm going to draw in my eye and my eyebrow. Okay, and we've got half a smile going because that side isn't affected. So what is the opposite side going to look like? How is the eye going to present here? Sorry?
Droopy smile, maybe the same for eye.
I would think that it wouldn't be like,
You would think it wouldn't be what? Affected?
yeah.
Correct. It's not affected. In the presence of a stroke, it's not affected because you're still getting innervation coming down from the ipsilateral side. Okay? So when I think about the information, so this information's gone. Let's see if I can cover it up. This information's gone. But you see I still have something coming down from this side for the upper face division, right? So this eye looks just like the other eye. I'll try and make it look just like it. Okay? Now how about the lower face division? If I got rid of all this, that's what? It's going to be droopy, right? So what happens is the person wakes up and they look in the mirror and they have a lopsided smile. Okay, so they look in the mirror and the upper part of their face looks perfectly normal. It's just their smile that's drooping on that side. Okay, and standard presentation post-stroke is a contralateral facial droop. Right? So the lesion's up here on the right side, and then the left side of the person is going to present with the smile that's asymmetrical. Does that make sense? Same presentation. Questions about the stroke presentation. This is an upper motor neuron presentation. Okay? The upper face division is redundant. So if you have a stroke that's only affected one side, then it's going to be preserved. The upper face division of the eye and the eyebrow looks just like the unaffected side. However, the lower face division is only present contralaterally, so the presence of a stroke produces symptoms, a droopy mouth for the lower face division. Got it? So this person's had a stroke. Now the last presentation is going to be that lower motor neuron problem that I talked about a minute ago. This is going to be a Bell's palsy presentation. And that's a lower motor neuron problem. Now we're going to look what happens with the lower motor neuron issue. And again, I'll just put in my midline. Okay, so upper face division, facial nucleus, and lower face division, facial nucleus, still there. And the upper face division, upper motor neuron, cell bodies, nuclei are present bilaterally. Come down, decusate ipsilaterally, and contralateral comes down, decusates at the level of the nucleus. No different than what we've been drawing. Now this upper face division, the lower motor neuron exiting from the upper face division nucleus comes down and it innervates the upper portion of the face here. And then the lower face division, the motor nucleus sends out axons that travel down and innervate the lower portion of the face, of the smile. Okay. when I look at, what side is that? Right side? The right side of the person's face. Again, the side's not affected. So I have an eye, and I've got an eyebrow. It looks good. And I've got half of a smile. But this time with the lower motor neuron presentation, the lesion's going to be here in the lower motor neurons. What's the person going to look like? The whole side's going to be droopy, right? So when that person wakes up and looks in the mirror, they're going to see that this eye is droopy. Looks like that. And the smile's droopy. All right? So that's the differential diagnosis. Okay, kind of a standard boards question, just FYI for your future. Very standard. Stroke presentation, lower portion of the contralateral face is affected. Bell's palsy, lower motor neuron injury, the entire half of the face is affected. Question, Gabby?
Yeah. So are these correct on both sides? Are they like?
Yes. Okay. So you're asking me the lower motor neurons are present bilaterally. I just chose to represent only one side for the facial nucleus. Otherwise, it's too complicated. Okay. So realize that there would also be nuclei present on this side that would have the same thing, but it just becomes too much, too crowded. Okay. Okay. So let me go back and show you. The best thing I know to show you the difference. So if I go, where's my motor? Here it is. Okay. Remember that? That's everything bilaterally. Okay? So what I'm showing you now, though, is that the facial nucleus not only has an upper face division, it has a bottom part that only controls the lower face. And it wouldn't have two, it would only have one on this side. Does that make sense? It's only contralateral. Okay? The only case that this isn't true is for cranial nerve number 7. And that's that differential diagnosis that's this. Okay? This one, the lower face division, only has the upper motor neuron present contralaterally. It's not present also ipsilaterally. Okay? Other questions about this differential diagnosis? Okay, the person looks in the mirror, half the face is drooping, they're worried they'd have a stroke. It's okay. It's just, if they've had a stroke, then only the lower face has been affected. That's call 911, quick, right? The entire half of the face has been affected. Bell's palsy issue, not a medical emergency, but you can get treatment as soon as you can, and this is something PTs work on. Usually it's the stim to get those muscles started. Okay? Lower motor neuron issue. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Doing good? Now, oh, that's sensory, that's motor. Okay. Now we're up to the brainstem. I have it. You know what?